My name is Clara. Today, I am sitting in a beautiful cafe in New York City. The cafe is very famous. It has large glass windows and modern lights. Outside, the streets are crowded. Hundreds of people are walking quickly. They are wearing dark coats. They are looking at their phones. Nobody is smiling. Everybody is rushing. I am holding a hot coffee in my hands. The cup is warm, but my fingers feel cold. I look down at my clothes. I am wearing an expensive wool coat. I have a designer bag on the chair next to me. On my wrist, there is a gold watch. It ticks quietly. Tick, tock. To the world, I am a picture of success. I am the vice president of a large marketing company. I make a lot of money. I live in a penthouse on the 40th floor. When I look out my window at night, the city looks like a box of sparkling jewels. But inside my chest, there is only emptiness. The sparkling jewels of the city do not warm my heart. Sometimes, when the cafe is quiet, my mind travels back in time. It travels back 10 years ago. It travels to a place where there were no tall buildings, no expensive coats, and no lonely nights. Let me tell you my story. It is a story about a girl who wanted everything, a boy who gave everything, and the terrible price of ambition. 10 years ago, I did not live in New York. I lived in a small town called Green Valley. The town was very quiet. It was surrounded by big hills and tall, ancient trees. In the summer, the air smelled like fresh grass and wildflowers. In the winter, the chimneys of the small houses blew white smoke into the gray sky. Life in Green Valley was slow. People knew each other's names. They stopped to talk on the street. They helped each other. But I hated it. For me, the town was a cage. I looked at the maps of big cities. I read magazines about fashion, business, and power. I wanted to see my name on a big office door. I wanted people to look at me with respect. I thought money was the answer to everything. Clara, you are always looking at the clouds. My mother used to say, look at the ground beneath your feet. There is happiness here. I did not listen to her. I only saw poverty. I only saw boredom. However, there was one reason I stayed in Green Valley as long as I did. His name was Leo. Leo was different from me. He did not care about big cities. He did not care about expensive clothes. Leo was a carpenter. He worked in a small wooden shop at the edge of the town. His father was a carpenter, and his grandfather was a carpenter too. Leo loved wood. He said wood had a soul. Every tree has a story, Clara, he told me once. He was fixing an old wooden chair. His hands were covered in sawdust. My job is to bring that story to life. Leo was not rich, but he was beautiful. He had warm, brown eyes that always looked at me with kindness. He had a strong body from his hard work. When he smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkled. That smile always made me feel safe, even when I was angry at the world. We were together for 3 years. Every evening, after he finished his work, we walked by the river. The river was wide and calm. The water reflected the orange and purple colors of the sunset. Leo always held my hand. His hand was rough. It had small scars from his tools. But it was the warmest hand in the world. Look at that spot over there, Clara, Leo said one evening. He pointed to a small hill near the river. That is where I want to build our house. I looked at the hill. It was just grass and trees. A house? I asked. Yes, Leo smiled. His eyes were bright with a dream. A beautiful wooden house. I will build it with my own hands. I will make a big kitchen for you. I will make a porch where we can sit in the evening and watch the river. We don't need much money, Clara. We have this town. We have our health. And we have each other. I looked at him. I loved him. I truly did. But his words made me feel heavy. A wooden house. A porch. A simple life by the river. That was his dream, not mine. Leo, I said softly. Don't you want more? Don't you want to go to the city? You could sell your furniture for a lot of money in a big city. You could be rich. Leo laughed gently. He shook his head. Clara, money cannot buy the peace I feel here. I don't want to be rich. I want to be happy. And my happiness is here, with you. I did not answer. I looked at the river, but in my mind, I was looking at the bright lights of a city far away. The turning point came on a rainy Tuesday. I was 24 years old. I had sent my resume to many big companies in New York. I did not tell I did not tell my parents. It was my secret project. The postman brought a large white envelope to my house. Inside, there was a letter from Apex Marketing Corporation. It was one of the biggest firms in the country. I read the words quickly. My heart was beating like a drum. Dear Miss Clara, we are impressed by your credentials. We want to offer you a position as a junior consultant in our New York office. Your salary will be... The number at the bottom of the page was huge. It was more money than Leo made in 2 years. I screamed with joy. I jumped up and down in my small bedroom. I did it. I finally did it. I shouted to the empty walls. But then, the excitement stopped. A cold feeling washed over me. The letter said I had to start in 2 weeks. New York was 2,000 miles away. It was a 20-hour drive or a long flight. If I took this job, I had to leave Green Valley. I had to leave my family. And I had to leave Leo. I sat on my bed for hours. I held the letter in my hands. The paper felt heavy. On one side of the scale, there was Leo. His warmth, his love, his simple wooden house. And a quiet life. On the other side, there was New York. Money, success, power, and my lifelong ambition. I cannot stay here, I whispered to myself. If I stay, I will become old and bitter. I will blame Leo for trapping me here. I have to go. I chose ambition. I chose the gold. That night, the rain stopped, but the air was very cold. I asked Leo to meet me by our usual spot near the river. When I arrived, he was already there. He was wearing his old brown jacket. He had a small wooden box in his hands. Clara, he said when he saw me. He walked to me and tried to hug me. I stepped back slightly. I did not want to feel his warmth. If I felt his warmth, I would become weak. I needed to be strong. I needed to be cold. Leo noticed my movement. His smile faded. He looked at my face. Clara, what is wrong? You look pale. Leo, I need to tell you something, I said. My voice sounded strange. It sounded like the voice of a stranger. I am leaving Green Valley. Leo stared at me. He did not understand. Leaving? For a holiday? Where are you going? No, Leo, I am moving. I got a job in New York. A big job. I am leaving in 2 weeks. The small wooden box in Leo's hands dropped into the wet grass. He did not look at it. He only looked at me. The silence between us was like a wall of ice. New York, he whispered. But what about us? What about our plans? What about the house by the river? That was your plan, Leo, not mine, I said. The words came out of my mouth like sharp knives. I wanted to hurt him a little, because hurting him made it easier for me to leave. I don't want to spend my life in this boring town. I don't want to live in a small wooden house. I want a real career. I want to achieve something big. Leo's eyes filled with deep, sharp pain. It was the worst thing I had ever seen. He looked at me as if I were a ghost. Is my love not enough for you, Clara? He asked. His voice was trembling. I know I am not rich, but I love you more than anyone else will ever love you. We can be happy here. Love cannot buy a life, Leo, I replied coldly. Love cannot pay for the things I want. I need success, and I cannot have success here with you. Leo closed his eyes for a moment. A single tear ran down his cheek. He did not wipe it away. When he opened his eyes again, the warmth was gone. There was only a deep, sad emptiness. He bent down and picked up the small wooden box from the grass. He held it out to me. I made this for you today, he said softly. It is a jewelry box. I spent 3 weeks carving it. I wanted to give it to you tonight. I looked at the box. It was beautiful. It had carvings of small flowers and a river. It was a masterpiece of love. Take it, Leo said. Take it to New York. When you put your expensive jewelry inside it, remember the boy who loved you for nothing. I reached out and took the box. My hands were shaking. Goodbye, Clara, Leo said. He turned around. He walked away into the dark night. His shoulders were slumped. He looked so small. I stood by the river for a long time. I held the wooden box tightly against my chest. A small voice inside me was screaming, "Run after him. Stop him. Don't go." But I silenced the voice. I wiped my tears, turned my back on the river, and walked home to pack my bags. The first few years in New York were exciting. The city was a monster of energy. Everything was fast, loud, and bright. I worked 15 hours a day. I climbed the corporate ladder quickly. I was clever, I was ruthless, and I was successful. My salary grew. I moved from a small room to a nice apartment, and finally to my luxury penthouse. I bought the things I always wanted. My closet was full of expensive clothes. My jewelry box, not Leo's box, but a modern silver one, was full of gold and diamonds. But success in the big city is a strange thing. It is like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. I had friends, but they were not real friends. We went to expensive restaurants and spoke about stocks, marketing strategies, and status. If I lost my job tomorrow, none of them would call me. Men liked me, but they did not love me. They loved my position. They loved my beautiful apartment. They loved the idea of a successful woman. Whenever a man tried to hold my hand, I felt nothing. Their hands were smooth and soft. They did not have the rough, warm feel of a carpenter's hands. Leo's wooden box sat on my nightstand. Every night, before I went to sleep, I looked at it. It was the only thing from my old life. 10 years passed in this way. 10 years of meetings, reports, money, and silence. One evening, I was celebrating my 10th year at the company. My colleagues threw a big party for me. Everyone was congratulating me. To Clara. My boss raised his glass. Everyone cheered. I smiled and drank my champagne. But suddenly, I looked at my reflection in the dark window of the restaurant. I saw a 34-year-old woman. She had a perfect hairstyle and a diamond necklace, but her eyes were dead. There was no light in them. I looked around the room at the fake smiles and the loud laughter. A wave of intense loneliness hit me. It was so strong I could not breathe. What am I doing here? I thought. Who loves me? Who knows the real me? The answer was nobody. I left the party without saying goodbye. I went back to my penthouse. I picked up Leo's wooden box. I held it to my face. It didn't smell like wood anymore. It smelled like dust and old time. I need to go home, I whispered to the empty room. I need to see him. The next morning, I took a leave of absence from work. I did not care about my meetings. I did not care about my emails. I got into my car and began the long drive back to Green Valley. As the tall buildings of New York disappeared behind me, the air began to change. The gray concrete turned into green trees. The noise of the traffic turned into the sound of the wind. The closer I got to the town, the faster my heart beat. Will he be angry? I wondered. Will he forgive me? Maybe he is still waiting. Maybe he never forgot me. I felt a surge of hope. I had money now. I could buy him a huge workshop. We could build the house together. I could fix my mistake. It was late afternoon when I drove into Green Valley. The town had changed very little. The streets were still quiet. The old bakery was still there. The air still smelled of grass and rain. I parked my car near the river. I got out and walked toward the edge of town, where Leo's workshop used to be. My legs felt heavy like lead. My hands were sweating. When I reached the workshop, I stopped. The old wooden sign was still there, Leo's fine woodwork. The windows were clean, and there was a soft yellow light shining from inside. I heard the sound of a saw, zzz, 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 then the sound of hammering. It was the music of my past. I walked to the door. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle. I pushed it open. The workshop smelled beautiful. It smelled of pine, cedar, and fresh oil. A man was standing by a large table. He was wearing an apron. His back was turned to me. He was carefully sanding the edge of a beautiful wooden dining table. "Leo," I said. My voice was very small, like the whisper of a child. The sound of sanding stopped. The man went rigid. He stayed still for a few seconds. Then, slowly, he turned around. It was Leo. He was older now. There were a few lines around his eyes, and his hair had a few strands of gray. But he was still the same. He still had those warm, deep brown eyes. He looked at me. He did not speak. He just stared. "Clara," he said finally. His voice was calm. It was not angry. It was just surprised. "Hello, Leo," I said. I took a step forward. I tried to smile, but my lips were trembling. "It has been a long time." 10 years, Leo said. He put his sanding block down on the table. He wiped his hands on his apron. "What are you doing here, Clara? Did something happen to your family?" "No," I said quickly. "My family is fine. I came to see you." Leo looked at me curiously. He looked at my expensive clothes, my high heels, and my jewelry. I felt foolish wearing those things in his dusty shop. "I came to say I am sorry, Leo," I said. The tears finally came, hot and fast, down my face. I was wrong. I went to the city. I got the money. I got the success. But it is all empty. There is no love there. There is no warmth. I have thought about you every single day for 10 years. I still have the wooden box you gave me." I took another step closer to him. I wanted to touch his hand. "I made a terrible mistake, Leo. I traded a diamond for a piece of glass. I am back now. We can build that house. I don't care about New York anymore." Leo looked at me. He listened to every word. His face was full of sadness, but it was a gentle sadness. He did not look at me with love. He looked at me with pity. "Clara," he said softly, "I forgave you a long time ago. I am not angry at you. Then we can try again." I asked with hope. Leo shook his head. "No, Clara, we cannot go back in time. You cannot unring a bell." "Why?" I cried. "Is it because you hate me?" "No," Leo said gently. "It is because I have a different life now." At that moment, the door at the back of the workshop opened. A woman came in. She was wearing a simple denim dress. Her hair was tied back, and she had a warm, kind face. She was holding a little girl in her arms. The little girl had curly brown hair and bright, intelligent eyes. "Leo, dinner is ready," the woman began, but she stopped when she saw me. The little girl saw Leo and giggled. "Daddy, Daddy, look what I drew." She held up a piece of paper with a drawing of a house. Leo's entire face changed. The sadness vanished. A light of pure, unadulterated happiness shone in his eyes. It was the exact same light he used to have when he looked at me by the river 10 years ago. He walked over to the woman. He kissed her forehead gently. Then he took the little girl into his arms and lifted her up. "It's beautiful, Lily," Leo said to his daughter. Then he looked back at me. "Clara, this is my wife Elena," Leo said. His voice was full of pride. "And this is our daughter, Lily." Elena looked at me with kind eyes. She did not know who I was, but she saw my tears. "Are you all right, Miss?" she asked softly. I looked at them. I looked at Leo, Elena, and Lily. They were a perfect circle of love. There was no space for me in that circle. I had walked away from it 10 years ago, and the circle had closed forever. Leo had built his dream. He had built the house by the river. He had built a life of warmth and peace. But he had built it with someone else. someone who appreciated his rough hands and his gentle soul. I am fine, I choked out through my tears. I looked at Leo one last time. Your family is beautiful, Leo, you built a wonderful life. Thank you, Clara, Leo said. His eyes wished me well. I hope you find your peace too. I turned around. I ran out of the workshop. I ran past the quiet houses, past the river, and straight to my car. I got inside, locked the doors, and sobbed until my chest hurt. The weight of my regret was heavier than any mountain. I had all the money in the world, but at that moment, I was the poorest person on earth. Now, let us return to the present day. I am back in the cafe in New York City. My coffee is cold now. It has been 6 months since my trip to Green Valley. The pain of seeing Leo with his family was a terrible storm. But after the storm, something new began to grow inside me. I learned a very hard, very important lesson. Ambition is a good thing. Working hard is a good thing. But money and career are just tools. They are not life itself. Life is the people we love. Life is the connections we make. If you sacrifice love for status, you will end up with an empty castle. I cannot change the past. I cannot erase my mistake. Leo belongs to his new life, and I must respect that. But I can change my present. Yesterday, I resigned from my job as vice president. My boss was shocked. My colleagues thought I was crazy. They asked me, "Where are you going? What will you do with your life?" I smiled a real smile for the first time in 10 years. I am going to start living, I told them. I am selling my luxury penthouse. I am going to move to a smaller, quieter city. I am going to use my money to build a library and a community center for children. I want to teach them about books, about art, and about the true values of life. I am still alone, but I am no longer lonely. I have a new purpose. I look down at my hands. They are smooth. They are the hands of a businesswoman. But starting tomorrow, I will use them to help people. Maybe, in time, my hands will become a little rough too. I look out the window of the cafe. The city is still rushing. The people are still busy. But I am no longer part of the race. I pay for my coffee and walk out into the sunlight. I feel light. I feel free. I lost my true love, but through the dark valley of my regret, I finally found my soul.